Welcome to Your Pennsylvania Ancestors. This is Denise Allen of PAancestors.com, and I'm so glad you could join me for this final episode of Season 2. In this week's episode, I take a couple of listener questions and then give you a preview of what's going to happen for Season 3. So grab a pencil and paper or your favorite note-taking app for your phone or tablet, and let's get started. Season 2 of the podcast was filled with stories, resources, and methodologies to help you as a genealogist get deeper into the lives of your ancestors. So be sure to check out my website for the resources that I posted that kind of went along with the podcast. I've been adding to that weekly, and if you want to see what else I'm adding now that the podcast season is over, because I'm still adding things weekly, be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. It's called PA Ancestors Discoveries, and if you go to PAancestors.com, that's PAancestors.com, you should get a pop-up box on the website where you can put in your email address and then have the weekly newsletter sent direct to your email box on Fridays. And now here's the 2 listener questions I got in. I think you're going to find them really interesting, and I hope you really learned something that helps your own research. All right, the first question is from Emmanuel, and here is his audio that he sent in.
Hi, I have one quick question. I'm looking for an ancestor who was a dentist in not in Philadelphia, but in Pennsylvania, in Nescopec, Pennsylvania. And I'm wondering if there's a record that I could find any information about him. I'm running into a brick wall. His name was Dr. E.S. Walker. Thank you.
All right, so this is exciting because we have someone who's a professional. He's a dentist, right? And so one of the things we can do is get deeper into his life in Luzerne County, where he was located, and see what we can find out about his dentistry practice. So first start off with the local county genealogical society. Maybe join the Facebook group for that county. The link is in the show notes for those of you that are looking for local county Facebook groups. And these are just groups of everyday genealogists who are interested in sharing resources. Sometimes they share pictures. Sometimes they share research that they've done. You can ask for help from other folks. No one's being paid on those groups. No one's asking for payment. It's all just people having fun talking about their ancestors and family histories. I don't sponsor any of those groups. I have no affiliation with those groups. As the saying goes, your mileage may vary in terms of what you get out of the groups. And they certainly all have a distinct personality. The other thing to check with someone who's in a profession like dentistry, and this can go for a lawyer or a doctor also, check Archive Grid, and the link for that website's in the show notes. So a lot of those professions kept ledger books, and Emmanuel mentioned his ancestor was often trading livestock, right? Chickens for dentistry and stuff like that during the Great Depression. And we've all heard those stories. So maybe he kept a ledger book of all that to make sure that he was getting paid by his patients. Those kinds of things are called manuscripts by most archives, and it could have traveled somewhere with a family member or made its way around the country. It might not be local to where he practiced, or it could be, which is why you want to check with that genealogical or historical society first. But check Archive Grid, check under his name, check under dentists to see if they have some dental ledgers that you could look at in an archive. Also, for every profession, there's a national and a state association for that profession. So we have the American Dental Association, and they actually do have Yes, a library and archive of their records. So to find that, I put a link in the show notes for anyone looking for dentists, but you also can just do it in general. Usually for most professions, if you go to the About section of that profession, they might have something in there about the history. If they don't, just kind of click around. Everybody has something about the origins of their organization, origins of that profession. And a lot of places, including businesses and corporations, have formed archives or museums or something to preserve the history of that group. So look into it. They're typically not open to the public and genealogists to just go in and do research like a genealogical society or somewhere like the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, but they would be open to an email request. I'll put a link in my show notes for how to make a successful research request through email, and there's some tips there. But you kind of want to find out around someone who's a professional, like when were they first licensed? What kind of training did they go through? Did they go to college? Requirements shifted over the course of time for what was required for professions. People used to be mentored into being a doctor or mentored to be a dentist. And then we shifted that to colleges and going to college for that. So it can give you some more records because maybe, he did go to college and it was in another state. And you could look up his college records through that college's archive. Also check the local county prothonotary. So a couple episodes ago, we had What is a Prothonotary? One of the records that prothonotaries keep is a list of the professionals in their county. And this was a state law. It did go away once the state took it over, but the counties used to keep those records. The professional registries haven't always been preserved in every county in Pennsylvania. And it's not something that's going to be digitized. Don't even think it. Like, you're going to need to actually contact the courthouse, the prothonotary office, or the Court of Common Pleas. And if you're not sure, just call the general number and figure out how to access those records. The other thing with Dr. Walker is, since he was practicing, and Emmanuel did let me know that he had one son, it's likely that he was married. So those marriage licenses in Pennsylvania, they started at the county level in 1894. So they are a wealth of information. You definitely want the marriage license application. The marriage license in Pennsylvania, the application would include his parents' names. It also includes where he was born. It says where everyone's living, the groom, the bride, the parents. It has ages. It has the person that does the wedding ceremony. So you do want to check the bottom of the form. Or the return, the marriage license return is the other piece of it. So those are some tips to researching your dentist, and tips for everyone if you're researching someone who's a professional in Pennsylvania. And good luck. It's an exciting time. You get to find out the whole history of dentistry doing this research, which is really fun and gives you a new appreciation the next time you go in for that dental cleaning, and you can share fun facts with your dentist. Okay, our second question came from C.M. Calvert, and he says, my ancestors Robert Calvert and Matthew Riddle settled in Venango County in the 1790s and built a home that was still standing in the 1960s. He and his neighbors also created the Calvert-Riddle Cemetery. I was told they had served in the Revolutionary War and arrived in Venango together. So far, I have found about 20 ancestors that are said to have served in the Revolution, according to information available on the Ancestry site. I have started to wonder if the number could really be that high and question the usefulness of said site. Guess I'm wondering if the information there should be taken with a grain of salt the further back it goes. So, honestly, the idea of public family trees is a great one. We can look at the connections and documentation that's already been completed by others, and then see how our ancestors fit in with what's already there. Anytime people have done the work, we do have a question, is how valid is it, right? The most extreme example I can recall in my research was looking up a Johann Gruber, who was born in 1781 in Bucks County, PA. And I found on an online site that he was married to 6 different women at the same time. So 6 different researchers had taken Johann Gruber and attached him to 6 different women because Johann Gruber had a baptism record and Johann Gruber had a marriage record that had been digitized, and the people doing the research didn't realize that there was more than one Johann Gruber alive at the time, but the only record that we had that was easily accessible from home was for the one man born in 1781 in Bucks County. So it's probably not the truth that Johann Gruber was married to 6 people all at the same time and had children with all of those women. So you want to make sure that if you're using a family tree or that you found and the connections on there, that the people have listed sources and records attached to the major events for that person. They have some census records, they have probate records, maybe some Bible records, particularly back in the 1700s, baptisms and marriage records from churches. Those are also places that would have early records that you'd want to see. If there's nothing on that family tree, but it's just taken from another family tree, I would try to avoid that. I mean, really be suspicious of it. Certainly look at it with a grain of salt, as you mentioned, but you don't want to take it like it's the truth. The other source of family trees that's not used is those local genealogical societies. There's been a ton of research done that's all on paper and not published online anywhere, and you want to look that up. In my county, the Gerhard surname is incredibly popular, and when you look at that family, it's so extensive and there's so many Gerhards. You just think, like, did every male Gerhard have just like 20 sons and no daughters? There's just so many Gerhards. And in the Berks County Genealogical Society, there's a huge compilation of Gerhard family trees. Multiple volumes, lots of information, because there have been people who have teased apart all these Gerhards and going through all the court records at the courthouse, all the church records, and to figure out which Gerhard was theirs, they had to sort through all the Gerhards and get everybody in the right place with the right parents. So definitely use those genealogical societies. So in terms of the question with patriots, though, Revolutionary War Patriots, the biggest source of those and those records is the Daughters of the American Revolution website. The DAR has done a great job in terms of being really transparent about their records and the genealogical research, and they make it available to everyone through their genealogical research system, or GRS. So there's a link in the show notes to access the DAR's GRS. That's a lot of acronyms. That would help you figure out who are these 20 patriots, who are their descendants, and am I actually tied in, and how am I tied in to those descendants? The thing to keep in mind, too, with anything you find online, family trees, records, could be here today and gone tomorrow. So you really need to, as a researcher, make sure that you're downloading records, you're keeping good copies for yourself, where you found it, who is it in reference to. I keep all my records by the individual that it belongs to. And if you are particularly looking at family trees, it could be helpful, too, to do screenshots of what you're seeing and the connections that previous people have done. You could think that you have early onset dementia or something, that you can't find something again that you found before. And really, it's just things are constantly fluid online. We're all online, often adding records, taking records away, switching relationships between people. So keep that in mind. After 10 years of being on various genealogy websites, I can assure you that things disappear on a regular basis. Things are added too, but, it's definitely a here today, gone tomorrow situation. So keep that in mind. I hope you enjoyed those questions and learned some ways to approach research for patriots and for people in professions. The season 3 of this podcast, Your Pennsylvania Ancestors, is going to shift focus again and help people who are getting started in their genealogy research. There's been a lot of people just started doing family history for the first time because they've been home a lot more with everything going on with the pandemic. And a lot of people are finding that they get back to Pennsylvania and need some additional help. So I want to help them out through the podcast. Success in genealogy research has 2 parts, as most of us know. It's knowing what records exist for a time and place. Where can I find that birth? Where can I find that death record? And then knowing how to navigate the gatekeepers who hold the records. When I want that birth record or that death record, is it online, offline? Can I get it? How do I get it? What's the best research term to use? Is there a form to fill out? Things get confusing, I think, for people. So season 3 is all about lessening that confusion and making sure that you have what you need to be successful in your genealogy research. So that's all I had for you for the end of the season 2 of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you have questions, you can shoot me a line at paancestors.com, hit the contact me button. And if you have comments on the podcast or anything else that you want to see in future seasons or future episodes, also hit that contact me button. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy and enjoy the remainder of the summer of 2020. Thank you.